earning $407,000 in 17 days.
And that's how I cracked this thing open.
You gotta be a mess of a human for family, business associates, attorneys, asset managers, for everyone to just be like, I'm done with that. You guys made $9,066 an hour on this deal. No, it's not crypto. No, it's not drop shipping. It's real estate. Real estate's been around since the dinosaurs. They just didn't trade it like we do, but we trade it in a different way. We're going to talk about that today. Welcome, Chris and Ryan.
What's up?
Hey, glad to be here.
Tell me about this deal. Let's get started. We got to start from the beginning. Where did this thing start?
I just walked my kids to school. It was a nice sunny day. The Commanders had just won the day before. And, I typically run my data through different kind of filters, spreadsheet filters, to see what we're working on, what we're researching. And I hadn't turned on the filter yet, and I just saw industrial. I saw the Dallas County, and I saw 2111 Industrial Street, and I'm like, this seems a little weird. The value, almost 6 acre parcel of property. It's only worth $270,000 in Lancaster in Dallas County. That doesn't make sense. I just pulled it up on Google Street View, pulled it up on LandGlide, went on LoopNet and tried to see if I could see any other listings around the area. And there was one active listing, or a couple active listings, just in that little pocket of Lancaster where all this kind of heavy manufacturing is going on. And those listings, I think, were in like the 1.3, 1.5, 1.8 range.
They were about similar sized properties, roughly 6 acres, and they were actually listed at the $3 million ranges. Yeah. But they'd been sitting for a few years, so it hadn't gotten any activity. And as we're looking at this, we're going, man, these guys are missing the mark, obviously, because nothing's selling. But even if we are 50% of what their value is and it would sell, then we potentially have something here.
But you're looking at something with like nearly $500,000 in taxes.
Sure.
And it could be worth $1 million or $2 million. You don't know. Yeah. So what happens next?
So at some point, he reaches out to me and he's like, man, I think I've got something here. You want to look at it with me? Maybe we can JV on it. And I'm sitting there looking, going, okay, it's in a nice industrial pocket. I go, it's got tons of frontage. So my mind originally went to, maybe we can cut this thing up and sell off parcels. So I go to you and I'm like, hey man, I think there's something here. I go, there's a couple things weird, is that the tax debt is really big. I go, and we have, I think it was 20 days to pay off the taxes. And you're like, well, how much are the taxes? I'm like, 550. He's like, oh no, this is going to like wipe out a bunch of our cash. And it's like, I don't know if we should do that, because
so you only come in the office if something is really good or really bad. Yeah. So when Ryan's walking down the hallway and I see him come through the glass, I'm like, I wonder if today is a good day or a bad day. And I'm like having a good day. So I'm like, don't fuck this day up for me. Yeah. And he comes in.
As I'm looking at it, I'm going, man, I've got all these properties on the market. I'm about to be flush with cash. And then this deal comes in, which always happens. Like I think I'm sitting flush with cash. A deal crosses my desk and I'm like, oh crap, there goes all of my cash.
And you're like the king of bright, shiny object syndrome.
Exactly.
So I don't know if he's coming in to show us a property or an Amazon drop shipping store. Like, I don't really know what we're looking at that day, really. It should be real estate, but you never really know.
Yeah.
So the first thing I specifically remember when you're like, 400 something grand in taxes. I remember hearing it
may have been the lower number probably at first, because Linebarger just kept escalating as they put privileged liens on it and all sorts of other stuff.
So Linebarger is the tax firm the law firm that does tax foreclosures in a lot of different jurisdictions. They're like well known for this. This is what they do. But they run them through the system and they're rarely checked hard, so they just get through. And when I see a $400,000 tax bill, I'm like, dude, that property better be worth a lot. And usually they foreclose far sooner. So what's the first step that you guys took? Wait, back up. I remember when you said, the questions always asked are, who's the owner? What's their profile? What's the property worth? What's owed in taxes? How do we think this is going to shake out like first blush? And you're like, $500,000 in taxes. I'm like, what's the value? You're like, well, I don't know. The tax district says it's worth a couple $100,000, but it could be worth a couple million. I'm just like, okay, none of this makes sense yet.
Yeah.
So I remember saying, I don't know. It looks like a lot of deals we've chased in the past that panned out to nothing.
Yeah. So when we're looking at it, we're going, man, I was like, there's other properties on the market at $3 million. I go, even if we're at 50%, maybe this thing's worth anywhere between 1.5 to 2. But I know paying $500,000 in cash for taxes with an unknown exit is definitely not something we want to take on.
Right.
So as we start looking at it, I'm talking to Chris going, man, I think there's something here. And then he spouts off. He's like, well, why don't we try to see if we can line up a wholesale We can wholesale this off to some end buyer, see if they can close before the taxes are due. So that way we don't have to pay the taxes, but we can see if we can offload this thing for $700,000-800,000 was our original thought.
Immediately, you're like, okay, wholesale it. It's commercial. The market is kind of soft for commercial.
Yep.
So wholesaling high value stuff is tricky anyway. We've done it. We have a pass of this.
Yeah.
Yep.
And this time, immediately, I'm like, $500,000 tax bill. We're going to wholesale it commercially. And I'm just like, all the odds are against you.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
I thought this thing was going to fall apart.
So when you went back to Chris, were you like, okay, let's keep going? Or were you like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think we reframed how we were going to look at it. Was originally was a wholesale it, see if we can line up a buyer. We started reaching out to some brokers, see if they had anybody. But then we started looking through the procedure of the lawsuit. And I think he noticed that when they were going through the procedure to name certain defendants, we, based on just an easy search, he was able to find the true owner of the entity, and the law firm hadn't served them whatsoever.
This is the tax statement. Year 1989 to present, no payments have been made. No one has paid this thing for as long as their records go back. Usually these tax offices go back like 5 to 10 years with their public-facing site.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? What's going on? How did this happen?
Well, the guy was not the greatest investor. Apparently, he had a history of committing some crimes and getting thrown in prison and whatnot. So this was one of several assets. As he owned it for the first few years, I think up until like the mid 90s, at some point his company starts to become unwound and he's going through these legal battles. This entity ends up going through a bankruptcy. And so the bankruptcy lasted from like 1995 until when we found it. They closed the bankruptcy in 2012. So it was a 17-year-long bankruptcy.
Oh my God.
Hold on. Let me add to this.
The guy do a prison
and
stint in between or what?
He did.
Oh.
Where he did what?
He did. And but let me back up. It's not just one bankruptcy we're dealing with. We were dealing with, as we came to find out, we were dealing with 2 concurrent bankruptcies from corporations that this gentleman owned. Because I can cut straight to the chase.
Go.
We found that Hilltop Developers Incorporated trustee was actually the trustee for the 113 Corporation, which then later became RHI Holdings, which was then the other entity that was being run by the same trustee doing the concurrent bankruptcy, Chapter 7 bankruptcy cases for Hilltop. That's how I cracked this thing open. For whatever reason, the attorney ad litem did not look in the land records for any instances of Hilltop. Hilltop owned other assets in Dallas County.
Yeah, so in this instance, he's looking at Hilltop Developers, and he comes up with like 3 filings. Not a whole lot. It gives us a little bit of information, but not much. And I'm like, you know what? Let me space out Hilltop in 2 words, and then developers. Then I do Hilltop Dev, and then some other searches come up. So then we're looking at Hilltop Dev, and there's like 30 or 40 filings.
Yep.
And we just start looking through the deed history, and as you click on like one of them, you can see either like through a deed of trust or a deed or something, you go through who the signer was, and you see this guy, Wayne Reeder, president. And I'm going, that's our guy.
How many days had elapsed from the moment you were walking home from your kids to school on a sunny day to like this point right now where you're like, that's my guy?
I think like 2 or 3.
A day,
two or
days.
3.
So y'all are moving. But
Yeah.
But just because you uncovered the secret, you peeled back the layers of the onion, identified the dude.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've done that in a real estate deal. I get them on the phone, they're like, get lost, click.
Yeah. Well,
Where's this go now?
hold on. So I was front running the kind of the to find this guy, right? And he did it. There were some family members he had some fallings out with. I tried them because they were all in business at one point together. They no longer are. But I also was able to read. There's a lot of news articles about all of this. So all of this is public information. So reached out to them, was basically told, I hope you find him, but I'm not getting involved with this.
Whoa. Family, friends are all saying that?
Family. And so then I read a news article, because if you Google Hilltop Developers and this guy and the owner, there's a lot. It's pages and pages and pages. So what happened was one of those news articles. Well, I knew he was in Kansas City. He had, for some whatever, I think he was originally from there. He went back to Kansas City, and he started doing condo developments that had mixed results. Under one of those news articles, there was a gentleman who was identified as his attorney. And that's when I just picked up the phone. I got a call back in an hour. I maybe made 3 calls on this deal.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's quick.
Yeah.
But you also dug deeper. A lot of people, they'll Google and they'll read this story and they read the story and they're fascinated. And then they go, what's next? You read the story and were like, what clues can I get out of this story to get a little closer to where I need to be?
Yeah.
Even in one of the articles, Missouri, Kansas City came in and basically took over some of his assets and stripped them of the assets.
Whoa.
In which you could see, I think you see the daughter is named in there. She's like, they can have it.
Yep.
We don't even want to deal with it anymore.
Yep.
Dude, you got to be a mess of a human for family, business associates, attorneys, asset managers, for everyone to just be like, I'm done with that guy.
But the attorney called me back, and I tracked down I tracked him down on that news article.
What'd you say when he called you back? You're like, "Hey, this is attorney for idiot."
Well,
What's
I left him a voicemail because attorneys never pick up their phones, right? I mean, but I just said, "Hey, look, this is who I am. This is my company. This is what I do. I think your client is the officer of this corporation, and I think, I understand it went through some bankruptcy, but I think there was an asset that was left behind or not disposed of under the bankruptcy. Give me a call. I'd love to talk to you about it." And I got a call back in 2 hours. And
I'm shocked he even called you. Most times the people are like, they don't even call back. Like,
Yeah.
So would you would you make an offer to him?
Yeah, on the phone, right there,
And
then
what
there.
would your offer look like?
I offered him. I told him what the situation was. We were up against the wall on the taxes. I said we originally wanted to try to get clear title and take it down beforehand, but then there were some delays and we just didn't have the time to do that. So we structured. I said, look, we'll still go down the path with you if you'll go down it with us. So we gave him $1,000 up front, took back a $24,000 promissory note that was going to be due by the end of the year, contingent on clear title.
You know what? He was willing to accept that because normally people would say, you bought $1 million deal for $1,000.
Yeah.
Normally people would say, what in the world? That's not real. That didn't happen. BS. There's the records. Go dig it up. But he did it because this attorney had been through the mud with this guy. And while you looked at it as a contingent deal, so did he. He's like, I'll take the $1,000 because it'll pay for my hour or two of phone calls. But the probability of these guys closing is nothing. He's been through this mud a long time.
Yeah, as we start looking at it, we're going, okay, well, this entity has been defunct for 30 years.
42 years in Texas.
Yeah, 42 years in
40
Texas.
years?
Because
you said the dude was 80s?
Yeah, so he's an older guy. So,
So he was
originally
running
it was
bad business in his 40s. This is so old. Everyone's
it was a Florida entity, but it operated in several different states, which is also why I think at some point he had that California bank.
Where did the entity originate?
Florida.
Which one?
Okay, one in Florida, one in California, and then they filed to do business in Texas with the Secretary of State.
Correct.
So when we're talking, I go to Bill and I'm like, hey, there's this entity. We think this is the opportunity. We think this is probably what it's worth, but we would likely need to go file 30 years of zero returns.
And he's like, I'm going to Alaska next week. F that.
Exactly. He doesn't want any part of that. So as we start looking at it, we're going, man, what is the potential solve here? But I think the biggest kicker is because the deed was not filed under the explicit ownership of the LLC. Yep. It's just the LLC was acting as a trust. Mm-hmm. Technically, we didn't have to bring that entity to be current.
It doesn't matter what was going on with the beneficiary. That's between the trustee and the beneficiary. The trustee can transact, and his responsibility is to deal with that stuff downstream.
Correct. And so because he was the clear president of the entity, all we needed to get was new resolutions created from the attorney on behalf of the client that showed that he was the president and has always been the president and is still today the president, so he could sign off as president of the entity.
Were you getting backup reviews from multiple attorneys on this?
Sort of. Well, one of them is my attorneys. One of my attorneys conflicted out in Dallas County because Dallas County's a client of theirs. So that was like, we still got what? Thanks, got $800 bill. I'm not going to mention who it was. We all work with them, but
so because we tried to use them to see if they could find any opportunity to pull the property from the auction without coming to table with anything. Because we knew if we could get this thing pulled for improper procedure or notice, then we could buy ourselves 3 months, if not longer, in time, which would give us time to really assess the real value. We send an email to the law firm that handles, to Linebarger. And we're like, hey, we think you need to pull this property from the auction list because you never provided proper service. He sends the emails doctored up beautifully, just lined out.
Yep.
The main guy for Linebarger, at least in that division, replies back. He's like, well, I think I recommend that we get this property pooled.
They were trying to stall us to not do what we were going to do next.
Exactly. So they were probably trying to see what we had planned, whether get what information, either were we going to get on a payment plan and they can get some of the money down, and then whatever happens from that point
increases on our side because we don't have clear title yet. We don't know what the final value actually is of this.
Yeah.
So we're not going to get into a payment plan of 400, 500 grand that requires 100
Correct.
G's down. That manages down the tax law firm's risk. And they're the heroes because they started collecting on a 20-year-long delinquency.
Exactly.
But now we're 100 grand at risk, and we got all kinds of loose ends.
And everyone knows that sometimes attorneys can be snakes. So I also didn't want them to start prying around, figuring out what our thoughts were, what we were going to try to do if we had any other plans. Yeah. So as I'm telling him, I'm like, look, let's just be quiet. Let's not respond at all. So that way they'll start thinking now, instead of continuing to push us and claim that they're going to let it go to auction, and then we're laying out our cards, we'll just operate in silence and they don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. So we hire another attorney to then start the process to file a TRO, but he's here in our office.
Okay, so for people who don't know, a temporary restraining order, something that came out of like the family code or some like thing a long time ago. It's now these days used to protect businesses from problems. I don't know, borrowers from lenders. What it does is it says, whatever the status quo is, let's protect that, let's stop it, and then we'll sort out what we think a problem is so no damage can happen. Yep. So you're going to file a temporary restraining order against the tax office, the county, to prevent them from foreclosing so we can straighten this out and not lose the equity.
Exactly. So that's where one of the attorney bills that came in, where we asked them to see if they could file the restraining order, and they're one we use for a lot of business, and they're a big one. Well, they end up conflicting us out because they used to represent Dallas at some point, so they can't represent us against them.
By the way, that same firm also maintained the trustee for those bankruptcies. So we actually did go down that path.
Really?
We did actually go down that path at one point to try to get a hold of him to see if he would still have the power to just deed it over to us. But that didn't happen. They couldn't. He was retired. He was long retired.
Correct.
Wow.
So that's a good. That was a good $1,000 lick right there. Of a few hours of work.
Exactly. So when we finally start going down the process of doing the restraining order, our attorney is here and not in Dallas, and I don't want to pay him 5-hour drive at $300, $400 an hour to go up there to file a restraining order plus time and travel back. So,
or he gets up there and they cancel the hearing or something happens, he has to go home. It costs us $3,000 for nothing.
So he finds an attorney locally that's willing to facilitate the paperwork and go to the courts and make the pleas that we submit through our attorney.
We just had her on call. We just basically had her on call, kept her abreast of things, and just like she was ready to rip if needed.
Yeah. So we submitted the restraining order. They accepted it. This is the auction's Tuesday. This is Monday morning. Well, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to just check to see their website to see if they pull it. Sure enough, he gets on the Light-Bargle website and it's pulled. It says sale canceled. So we're all jumping with excitement. Yeah,
we're still in the fight. We still got
us being quiet, not responding at all.
So that was strategy. You didn't want to show your cards because you had a plan. You knew what you were doing. You were going to get it straightened out. Yeah. But sometimes if you reveal too much, people take advantage of you. It's a big leverage game at this point. It is high stakes leverage.
So what happened is that once that sale got pulled and then the city of Lancaster started calling me and, oh my gosh, this is so fantastic. We want to do anything we can help with you.
Oh, so that's high development potential. If they reached out to you?
They reached out to me like the day after the sale got pulled.
How did they find out?
Well, we were on title. You've got to have a cooperative seller in these situations who understands what they're up against, because then it gets real dicey. Are they going to hold me over the barrel, hold me over the barrel?
Right, then leverage comes from him to leverage you for more money.
Correct. Yeah,
exactly.
Correct. Let me bring it forward. So City of Lancaster's reaching out, and then I get a call the next day from a gentleman in a company who owned a company that was just north of our parcel. And typically that's what I do. I think that's kind of standard operating procedure. It's good practice. Call neighbors, right? He reached out to us. He cold called me. And he basically laid out, he knew everything about the property. He knew all about the ownership. He knew everything about the owner and the owner's family. And he told me that, yeah, I thought about reaching out, but I just don't like to do business with those kinds of people.
Yeah, I get it, but
the city of Lancaster was effectively teeing him up to buy this thing. He had already done a tree survey. He knew everything about the property. I'm not kidding you. He had money invested in this thing without a dog in the fight.
Yeah, he'd been working with the city of Lancaster in order to understand what entitlements are needed, what he could do, zoning.
He was ready.
Because they were a mining company, and so we've come to find out that they were planning on building a future fabrication center, essentially right on this parcel that bordered their other parcels. So
they're risky going. He probably didn't like that you guys found it and sniped the deal, but he's the guy that started spending tens of thousands of dollars and making plans
when he has no interest. He doesn't have an agreement. He's spending all this money.
I'm buying cribs and picking names for my baby, but my wife's not pregnant. Like, that's your fault, dude.
Yeah.
So there was some.
My wife always gets pregnant, so that won't happen in my house. But
So he came back a few hours later, said, "I'll give you $1 million. That's it, mate. Like, I'm not going higher. I've talked to my business partners. They're not too happy about the situation, but that's what we're willing to do right now.
And he was like, we'll do $1 million close as soon as you get clear title. It's
That's
7
my
days.
kind of offer, baby.
Yeah. And so we're sitting there going like, holy crap, this is good. So as we're starting looking at that deal going, you know what? Let's maybe see if we can juice it up a little bit. Can we give them to take like a note on the back end that pays out sometime later? Or, in the end, we ended up agreeing to that price. But we're like, you pay for all closing costs. You're paying for the title policy. No surveys, no outs. I think it was $50,000 earnest money up front.
No brokers, no 6% broker fee.
No broker's fees on
Shoot,
IRA.
that's 60, 80 grand, right?
Oh, no,
there.
I've done the math. It's like over 100. No, between the survey and clearing the land to get the survey done and the broker's fees, we're talking about $150,000 lick.
Exactly. So we start looking at this offer going, man, it's really like a 1.5 offer.
Yeah.
And then we're getting it done in 7 days versus
And how many
months.
days are you in at this point? 10 days?
12 days.
10, 12 days, something like that.
By the way, I wasn't looking at, I took a gamble on this. I was not looking at anything else besides how can I get this deal across.
Does that look like $1 million deal to y'all? People undervalue velocity of money. Or in the early days, we would do that. We would, let's take it down. Let's go get top dollar. And you know what would happen? We'd go to market. And because we want top dollar, it wouldn't sell quickly. And it's commercial, it sells slower. And we'd wind up getting an offer months and months down the road that wasn't the top, but we realized we weren't getting that, so we take less. And now we got to pay brokers. Now we got to pay carrying costs. Now we got cost of capital or our own opportunity cost because capital is out. All these things happen. And now you're trying to sell a $2 million deal that your basis is $500 to $700,000 instead of selling $1 million deal that your basis is, at this point, you're in for what, $3,000 out of your pocket?
Yeah. Pay the attorneys at
That's
closing.
effectively zero.
Yeah.
That's effectively no money.
Yeah.
That's lunch money, dude.
Yeah.
Let's see, your total profit was $407,989 divided by 45 hours. Let's be generous. You guys made $9,066 an hour on this deal. I don't know anybody who bills $10,000 an hour. Now, they don't all work like this, but this one sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
What do you tell people? If you got one thing to tell them, if they want to, they want to be like Chris Burns when they grow up. What do you got to tell them?
I don't know if it would. There was a little luck and a little faith in this one. And it was a lot of hard work behind it. And I think this one panned out. I'm good. I've done other ones where they don't pan out, where I put the same amount of effort and try to, force it to a result. But I think you do enough of them, you're gonna hit big.
That people ask, how does Tom Brady win so many Super Bowls? He doesn't practice to win Super Bowls. He practices to win home games, away games, regular season games. He plays a lot, and every once in a while, well, the Super Bowl happens.
Yep.
Totally.
All right, guys, if folks want to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you, Chris?
Curative Chris on Instagram.
Curative Chris on Instagram.
Yep.
And Ryan McDonald, REI.
That's it. If you got some questions for me, if you want some online education, you want my book, go to www.loganfulmer.com. I got a ton of stuff for you there. I wrote a cool story about how I figured out how to do all this and how it worked building a business. The book is free. All you got to do is pay shipping and handling. It's the same cost as lunch, right? Go there and see that. Bye, y'all.